Yo hablar mucho esta noche en dos lenguas porque yo no hablo español muy bueno, yo conozco solamente algunas palabras. Pero quisiera comenzar en español porque yo tuve que leer este libro magnífico en esta lengua hermosa. Yo le admiro mucho. Yo amo mucho la cultura de la lengua. Yo amo también mucho estar con el escritor en el contexto concreto de su situación política, buscando las preguntas universales generales. Pero yo voy a continuar in English, if you allow me. I'm really very glad to be here tonight. It's a great honor to be in this very impressive and important institution of higher learning. I always had a deep admiration for Jesuit school, and I'm very glad to be in one tonight. I think that this is a really special evening and tribute to Orlando, because what he did was that he really wrote an important book. He explained himself pretty well, so I don't have much to add to it. Let me just give you a couple of thoughts that were coming to my mind when I was listening to other speakers you already had the opportunity to listen to. First of all, the title, Science of Democracy. What kind of science do we have in mind here? Because I think that we would be forced to make at least one very important distinction. Are we with this science putting ourselves into shoes of observers, those who like to look at the situation and identify certain things that are part of a form of government called democracy, as distinct from other forms of government, let's say governments of one kingdom or monarchy, or governments of few, aristocracy or oligarchy. Certainly we can do that, and all political scientists like to put themselves into the shoes of observers. But I believe that there is something else here at stake in the book. I can go easily, because we are at the Jesuit school, I can afford that. Remind you of certain basic thoughts of Aristotle, who in his Nicomachean Ethics made a very clear distinction between two types of knowledge. One he called episteme, maybe knowledge of observers, ideas that help observers to articulate well the topic under observation. But obviously he also mentioned the other type of knowledge he called phronesis, practical knowledge. Knowledge of those who don't want only to sharpen their insight, but as Aristotle says, who aim at betterment of action, who need this knowledge to understand themselves in certain situations, who need science of democracy not only to describe well forms of government in the today's world, but to do something about it in the concrete situation in which they are finding themselves. I think that Orlando made tonight a very good case for turning attention to all of us who might be very often being tempted or almost drawn too much to the superficial aspects of the things, to deeper layers of our existence in the world. And philosophers are those who always are here around, maybe not always, but should be here around to remind us of that, giving us impulses and abilities to go deeper, and maybe from there to discover something what would help us in our current troubles and problems. one person who was mentioned here is Eric Fegeli, European philosopher. There's a whole generation of philosophers of the 20th century who have their origin in Central Europe. Jan Patočka, my mentor of a whole generation of people in our country, is certainly one of them. He was born in the beginning of the 20th century and died almost as Moses before he could see the change of 1989. He was a philosopher of old traditional school. He was pupil of Russell, so he was phenomenologist. But in the end of his life, he decided to put himself into action. He became a spokesperson of Charter 77 in the age of 69 and died almost in a Socratic age of 70 in certain confrontation, as all philosophers used to have with his voice, with his city, in which he simply did what all other classical philosophers were doing, warning people, what a shame, you Athenians, that you take care only about money, glory, and power, and don't take care about the most important thing, which is your soul, which is yourself, which is your identity, which is the requirement that you should live in unity with yourself. This is, in a nutshell, what totalitarianism is trying to take from all the people. There are different forms of totalitarianism, sometimes very bloody and bloodthirsty and murderous, but again there's some other softer forms, and the question, is, which form is worse? Because there are other forms of totalitarianism that simply make people to coordinate themselves with the situation. Maybe some other people are in a war situation, such as Jews during the Second World War, where they were taken somewhere as a part of final solution, but all others were just coordinating themselves with the situation, not seeing enough what was happening to our neighbors and people around us. So I think that first thing, and this is the lesson of this book, very nicely put, is that we should not be indifferent, that we should start thinking. Thinking, I think, is the first power we have to resist certain tendencies of our world. Person who is the same age category, same generation, is Eric Fegeli. He also was born in the first decade of the 20th century, and as many people from German part of the world had to leave his country. He was from Austria, but anyway, after Anschluss, he had to flee here under very dramatic circumstances, ended up in the United States. And then he also died in 1975, I believe. And in one of his books, there is a very crucial and important thing that he says that philosophers are always concrete people who, in concrete context of their situation, are trying to resist disorders of their time. So philosophers are not seen by him as metaphysicians necessarily, as people who just with their heads in the clouds are inventing abstract systems and doctrines that are not maybe comprehensible to our layman and only deserve a very prominent place in the shelves in our high-level libraries. Philosophers are concrete people who are asked to help us out in this situation. And the New Science of Politics by Eric Fegeli that is mentioned in the book, this is a book that really we got very much influenced in the 1970s in Czechoslovakia. I remember well, we had a kind of clandestine, private, not official seminar. And what a discovery for us it was. We were all kind of students of Jan Patočka, to find a new sense of politics of Eric Fegeli. That was something like a fresh and clear voice that could be heard on the desert. New sense of politics which was not just for politologues and those who are experts in sciences and have them their titles gained for their scholarship. It was really about us of my, I would say, teachers. So I mentioned Patočka, there is an Equator in here. I have also Hannah Arendt, a German Jew, woman. In my view, one of the biggest and most important political philosophers of the 20th century. Because she was the one that said the most substantive things about totalitarianism in her time. She wrote big books about that. I will mention here just one piece from a radio interview she gave in 1960s to Günter Gauss. And she said him the following thing. Look, when Hitler got into power, we were not so much surprised because we already had known what he was up to. We were not surprised what our enemies did. We were surprised what our friends did. How quickly they coordinated themselves with the new situation. How quickly we found ourselves, the Jews, surrounded almost like by a vacuum. How quickly this good society, the middle class in the middle, got used to a new regime and went along with the horrors that were to come and that were really to bring difficult questions to German souls in the second half of the 20th century. So I think that what we are talking here about is the culture of intellectual resistance. But what we are talking here, and maybe the question of skeptics is, what is it good for? Can this change our situation? Castro is that so long in power. Can we help ourselves out from this situation by reading books of philosophers? Can we help ourselves out by reading the Orlando's book? I think that surprisingly enough, yes, we can. I think that if we had a chance to articulate our situation from our own perspective, there will be others around, like Czechs or Cubans, if you may allow me to use that will stand up. That there will be something like solidarity, if you want to say, solidarity of those who understand, who are not cheated and who will not be cheated by Chavists or populists of this world, and who always will know that democracy is not just a political machinery of power, that is not just a counting of votes, that this is about values and principles that nourish our laws and that are based in our souls. And I think that if I can imagine now those on the island of Cuba today sitting at their homes and maybe waiting for some signs of hope, these books like that can be a substantive message